they found out that I had a large tumor in my brain.
I was terrified. Actually, I was terrified when I found out I had a brain tumor. I thought I was going to die.
The neurologist in Pueblo said, you've got beginning stages of Parkinson's. So it was kind of like a humbling experience. The things that I could do, I could not do anymore.
The car turned in front of me, and I hit the car, and then when the back hit again, I went out the driver's window.
So the tumor was approximately 5.5 to 6 centimeters around.
So it was a large tumor, and of course, Joy, being bright and well-trained, was terrified to have this tumor.
Of course, I was concerned for my family. I was concerned as a mother that I wouldn't be the same mother to them. So that was the hardest part.
So it was nice that we could take some time and talk about what all the options were. It's not a tumor type or size that would respond well to anything but surgery. And so at some point she needed to make the decision whether or not she wanted to go to San Francisco or New York or Dallas and have it removed there or have it removed here.
Okay, I'm going to get through this because I have an amazing neurosurgeon who I trust, and his team is amazing. I underwent an approximate 12-hour surgery.
It's tough to work on people that you know and love, but sometimes it's the right thing to do. And I think in Joy's case it was. She came through beautifully. True to form, she was back to work just as soon as she possibly could. And over the subsequent months really is completely back up to speed in terms of her thinking, speech, everything. Back to being that wonderful person that I originally knew and worked with on the trauma team.
My doctor had set me up with my surgeon, and we decided to go ahead and have a biopsy done. And at that point, we discovered that I ended up having stage 2 brain cancer.
She had a complex brain tumor in a really important area of the brain.
I really thought that my life was going to end.
She had a tumor right in the middle of her speech area. In order to treat that, we first had to do a lot of preoperative imaging and analysis.
When he told me they were going to have me partially awake during the surgery, I had no idea what to expect.
So Jessica had an operation where we put her asleep, woke her up in the middle of the operation, stimulated the surface of the brain with my partner, Dr. Williams, talking to her and examining her.
And so what we did in her case is stimulated areas of the brain and actually map out the speech center.
I could touch the brain as she's speaking, and if I was close to the speech area, she'd stop speaking. I take the stimulation away, she could start speaking again. It's not typical anesthesia to put somebody asleep, wake them up in the middle of the case, have them not move, but also be cooperative, and then put them back asleep. So we had a complete game plan before we got to the operating room, and fortunately everything worked out great.
They were like my angels. So yes, I would get them all in the room and say thank you so much for saving my life, because if it weren't for this team I had and their communication process and the network that they have, I don't think I would be here today. I was just happy to be alive.
The neurologist in Pueblo said, you've got beginning stages of Parkinson's. So it was a humbling experience, and I thought, well, there goes my whole life.
When he came to see me, we talked about some of the options that we have. I think he was a good candidate for deep brain stimulation.
And he said it's an operation into the brain, and they attached some electrode wires, and he went through the entire procedure explaining everything. And he said the only regret you may have after the surgery is that you did not do this earlier. I've had a number of people who have approached me after the DBS surgery and said, it's remarkable, you look so well.
Yeah, I began seeing Tom after he had had his deep brain stimulator implants performed by Dr. McVicker. We've been seeing him and reprogramming the implants, trying to tweak the stimulations to give him the maximum benefit in his motor function without side effects.
My grandson was so happy that I was able to walk, that I was able to run. And he said, let's have a race, let's run to the back. And so I ran, and he was so happy, he was just jumping with joy. Grandpa can run, look, he can run again. I had no idea that it was going to have this kind of impact on my life. And it was so profound that it just made me choke up with tears. At that moment, I said, thank you, God.
They immediately saw that I had a traumatic brain injury, and that was very bad.
His neurologic condition was absolutely critical. Brandon came to us all but dead.
So in order to save my life, they had to take off my skull.
And we did that. We took him to the operating room and we made a very large incision and we removed
This entire hemisphere, the right hemisphere of my skull, took it out, which would allow my brain to swell.
rather than to swell within the hard case of the brain.
And because if they wouldn't have removed my skull, I would have died in a matter of hours. I had to wear a helmet for 3 months.
So several months later, when he was doing so well, he came back to the hospital. We were able to open up his old scalp flap and put the bone back in.
So in Brandon's case, right decision. It took a lot of work.
You know, you care about your patients and hopefully show them that through the time you spend with them explaining everything and in the care you take with the patient themselves. But it's a long-term relationship. Yeah, I mean, I remember patients from 8 years ago.
Sometimes the job's not easy, sometimes the hours aren't ideal, the conditions aren't ideal, but at the end of the day we think, well, gosh, what would we want if somebody in our family had the same situation?
I really cannot describe how happy I am for the doctors, the hospital, all the staff, everyone who played a role in my recovery. They all did a stellar job. Pretty grand, and it's one heck of a testimony.